Part 85. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 844. This talented man was previously a being who did not have a good sense of Jiayan. Although he admitted that his strength could not be compared with Jiayan, he was still surpassed by a newcomer and he was not convinced. But after these star area genius battles were carried out, this venerable person who had been eliminated early saw Jiayan singing all the way, and even won the 8th game. Now seeing Jiayan, it was completely different. A state of mind. Envy, fear, and joy. All in all a mixed bag of flavors. After Jiayan returned to his position, one by one the talented and powerful Wuci forces were still looking at him. This made Jiayan feel helpless. Is it too popular? No. This is just the beginning. I can feel that after fighting with so many geniuses, my actual combat experience has skyrocketed. In the near future, my strength will increase faster, which will definitely surprise them even more. It's just an hors d'oeuvres now. Jiayan fell into his own thoughts again. Coming to this genius star field is like God opening a door to a new world for Jiayan. He has incomparable passion here and even feels that he is making progress every moment. The battles on the battlefield were going on one after another. Then Jiayan played again. This time his opponent was someone whom Jiayan had never fought before, but he had lost several times before. No one thought that he could put any pressure on Jiayan, the super dark horse. And the result was the same, Jiayan won easily. This time he didn't even use 40% of his strength, but used 35% of his strength to win. Finally, the time came to the final moment of the personal battle at almost the venerable level. Okay, next is the final battle of the venerable's personal battle. It is also the battle that everyone is looking forward to determine who will win the strongest venerable. Our super genius from Wuci's force is also the #1 super genius in the history of this event. The dark horse, Jiayan, faces the strongest force in North Reims, and is also the finals match for the last top leader, Sci-Fi. Come up, the two strongest sages of the 215th sector, accept the cheers from the entire sector. Following the explanation of the semi-star level expert, Jiayan and another venerable person from a distant power slowly stood up. The opponent is the strong man with the sickle. When Jiayan walked onto the high platform, the other party's eyes fell on him. He stood up at the same time and slowly walked towards the high platform. Sci-Fi was the most powerful venerable in the 215th district in the previous term, and this time, he thought he would be competing with the black bear existence he had fought before for the first place, but now he actually faced an opponent he could never have imagined. A new talent that just emerged. He looked a little unconcerned, because he didn't think that a newcomer who had just arrived in the genius battlefield could bring any threat to him. Because the growth rate given to geniuses by the genius battlefield is extremely terrifying, if this newcomer who has just arrived can defeat him. He is an intermediate level genius, and he has been in the genius battlefield for 15 years. If the opponent can defeat him just after entering the genius battlefield, he even thinks that the opponent must be at least the top among intermediate geniuses. Possible. How could a venerable person who was second only to a high-level genius come here to the small 215-star area? He thought this was impossible, so it was impossible for Jiayan to defeat him. Is Sector 215 the strongest? Let's see if he can force me to use 40% of my strength. Jiayan looked at the other party, his expression still calm. After all, his strength is like a bug in this game. The difference is whether he wants to win or not. Two monsters came to the battle circle. The entire viewing platform and the auditorium were in complete silence at this moment. It seemed that every creature felt the breathtaking pressure of the two great geniuses. In fact, if Jiayan and the other party activate the brainwave power environment control, it will naturally affect the entire auditorium, and may even cause the death of most of the audience here, but the rules do not allow it. Okay, Now the two super geniuses are on the field. Audiences, who do you think can win the final championship? Everyone has a betting brain, and now you can place your bets. The semi-star level expert openly asked the audience to place bets, and there was no telling how many people would be fooled by him. After a while, when the half-star powerhouse saw that there was no further betting, he announced the start of the battle. Okay, everyone can't wait any longer. Let the battle begin between the two of you on the field. With the announcement of the start of war, the two venerables remained silent for a while. The other party wanted to observe, but Jia Yan didn't care. Haha, it seems that not many people think that Your Excellency Jia Yan can defeat me. Only less than 10% of those who vote for you will win. Sci-Fi shook his long sickle arm, then looked at the real-time betting machine on the sidelines, and said to Jia Yan with some mockery. Jia Yan looked at the betting machine on the sidelines and found that the number of people betting on him to win was only about 10%. I don't care what they think, and I can't influence the outcome between us. Jia Yan shook his head. The other party was the first place in the previous competition, so his reputation was naturally very high. Naturally, no one would believe him as a dark horse who had just emerged. So, Your Excellency Jia Yan, do you think you will win? The monster with the sickle arm looked at Jia Yan from a distance, and asked with a little surprise when he saw that the calmness in the other person's eyes was not fake. Of course, if I don't think I can win, what am I going to do here? Jia Yan responded with a smile. Well, let me see your strength. This monster with scythe arms walked slowly, step by step, forward. What's going on with Jia Yan? The opponent's attack range is extremely terrifying. How could he let the opponent get so close? Among Wu Xi's forces, a venerable asked curiously. Although he doesn't like Jia Yan either, but now that Wu Xi's forces have such a powerful sage coming to the final step, he naturally doesn't want Jia Yan to lose. The opponent's attack range is long, but haven't you seen that Jia Yan's 6 legs are also extremely long? Maybe his 6 legs are also attack weapons. The venerable on the other side also spoke with some uncertainty. To put it bluntly, they, the venerables, can no longer guess what a venerable of Jia Yan's level is thinking. The gap in strength is too big. But what he didn't know was that the powerful people from Wu Xi's power on one side were also arguing about this matter. Jia Yan has never shown that his feet have long-distance attack power. Although it is very long, the long-distance attack ability is not necessarily proportional to the length. I don't know how he can cope with it. A ranking expert would not think that Jia Yan really let the opponent get close without any way to deal with it. Now he is just waiting to see how Jia Yan responds. The assassin approached Jia Yan step by step. He finally reached the range where his scythe arm could attack. The distance between the two is almost 150 meters. There was a glint in his eyes. Jia Yan, you let me get close to you on purpose, are you looking down on me? Now let's see how I defeat you. As he spoke, his scythe arm suddenly swung, and a slender streak of cold light came out fiercely. The speed of the sickle is extremely fast. At the same time, a wave of brainwave power directly suppressed the air where Jia Yan was, pinning him to the ground. The sickle arm followed like a shadow and suddenly hit Jia Yan's head. It was about to hit him and crush his head completely. It sounds complicated, but it all happened in the blink of an eye, incredibly fast. There was a hint of pride in his piercing eyes, although he didn't think he could defeat the enemy with just one move. After all, at this point, he didn't think Jia Yan was someone he could deal with. But even if you can inflict some injuries on the opponent, it is definitely a great advantage. It's all because you are too talented, you are so careless. Sci-Fi slammed his arm down hard. The distance of 150 meters did not pose much of a problem to his long sickle arm. And just when the other party showed a hint of joy, Jia Yan's hind foot, the longest of his 6 legs, finally moved. Until now, Jia Yan had no experience of using his hind legs in battles. Although he often used it for assaults, it was always used in surprise attacks. But now he took the initiative to use his less flexible hind legs, and suddenly ejected and smashed out. The control of the rear foot is not enough, and it is not precise enough. Jia Yan even thinks that in addition to its strong jumping ability, doesn't do much at all. But now he actually used it in order to test the fighting method of this hind foot. Bang! High in the air, the scythe arm shot out was blocked by Jia Yan's rear foot. Huh? This hind foot can actually block my arm. Sci-Fi looked a little shocked when he saw that his arm was blocked. But this was expected, and he felt that Jia Yan's hind foot that blocked his blow was not stable. It must have been caused by the opponent being suddenly attacked and having no choice but to use the rear foot that he was not used to. One more blow. His other sickle arm shot out again, heading towards Jia Yan's head. There was no big disturbance in Jia Yan's eyes, and another hind foot bounced up, blocking the incoming sickle arm. The opponent's arms are much more flexible than Jia Yan's hind feet. After that, the two sides were like two sharp swordsmen, constantly colliding in the air, making a loud collision sound. Suddenly the opponent's sickle arm seemed to have traveled through space, piercing out from under Jia Yan's belly, and suddenly it seemed to be a ghost, slashing towards the back. Jia Yan used 35% of his strength, but he was completely at a disadvantage when dealing with it. So powerful. Not only his strength, but also his familiarity with the moves and his ability in actual combat are all far superior to his previous opponents. No wonder he is the strongest venerable in the 215-star district. Jia Yan blocked the opponent's attacks time and time again with some thrills. The powers used by both sides were not very similar, but Jia Yan clearly had the control power of the early stage of the venerable. So very embarrassed. Dang dang dang. The Mars battle between the two sides was like two planets colliding together, almost hurting the surrounding audience. The scene is terrifying. Thanks to the Uiage book friend for the 1000 starting coin reward. Thank you, Reborn as an Interstellar Giant Mosquito author, Bulletin U. Chapter 845. Awesome, awesome. We know how powerful Sci-Fi is, but Jia Yan, a newcomer, is so powerful. Sure enough, they are a real fight between dragons and tigers. I seem to have seen the two future sages competing for the first place within a few sessions. It's a scene. The semi-star level commentator was like a chicken on the high platform, constantly speaking out. How many times will we compete with him? Hearing this voice, Jia Yan almost laughed out loud. I'm sorry, although I would like to learn your combat experience and application of energy, but now is not the time. Jia Yan looked at the opponent who was constantly attacking in front of him. Then, a sudden and terrifying force surged out of his body like an explosion. Let you see 40% of my strength, Jia Yan said coldly in his heart. Coming. Ci Rong on the opposite side has long been waiting for Jia Yan's powerful power that was occasionally revealed during previous battles. But he had seen it before, and actually faced it in person. He suddenly felt that his power was completely unable to deal with it. Boom. One front foot thrust out, knocking out the thorn hard. His slender arms had no time to react. Although he saw Jia Yan's attack, his long arms were also a disadvantage and his reaction speed was too slow. He was knocked away by Jia Yan's blow. At the same time, the sharp front feet directly shattered the scales in front of his chest, almost piercing into his armor and seriously injuring him. What a tough defense. Jia Yan was also a little surprised. This thorny face was indeed the most terrifying venerable in the entire 215-star area. Even with 40% of his strength, he could not break through his defense with one blow. If it doesn't work once, then multiple times. Jia Yang didn't give up the idea at all. His body followed the opponent's retreating figure like a shadow, and then hit him with a blow. It's difficult to pretend to be using all your strength. Jia Yan can obviously land several attacks on one point, but now in order to pretend to be more realistic, he deliberately disperses the attack locations. The opponent's defense blocks his attacks again and again. Fight back. This thorny appearance was instantly at a disadvantage, but he fought back unwillingly. The situation of the entire battle between the two suddenly changed. Jia Yan actually suppressed the opponent and started attacking in one breath. How can Jia Yan's power last forever? Could it be that it's not an explosion? That means he didn't fight us with all his strength before. One by one, the venerable monsters who had fought with Jia Yan smiled bitterly when they saw the long-term fighting power that Jia Yan had now burst out. They knew that Jia Yan had used this power occasionally when he fought with them before. It's not an explosion at all, but his actual combat power. I didn't use them all the time before because people didn't like them at all. This newcomer is so unbelievable. He is definitely a top-notch intermediate genius, only a little bit worse than a high-level genius. All the venerables and powerful people in the audience were shocked by Jia Yan's strength, but the battle on the stage was still going on like an indiscriminate bombardment. The strength of both sides was beyond that of ordinary sages. Jia Yan was also a little surprised that this strong man with the sickle arm had never used his full strength before. Jia Yan. You can't beat me. Ci Rong roared wildly, and then his scythe arm suddenly exploded, and pieces of small scythes flew out from it, one after another towards Jia Yan, who was very close at hand. Huh? What a wonderful move! Jia Yan's expression changed slightly, but he didn't feel much panic. But at this moment, his body stepped back and directly entered the subspace. How can it be? Ci Rong's expression was shocked when he saw Jia Yan ducking and avoiding his own blow. Jia Yan's body that entered the subspace did not travel through space, but reappeared directly from the same place after dodging this wave of sickle attacks. Puff! His front foot stabbed the opponent's chest suddenly, hitting the depression where he had attacked before. This time, Thorn Rong's powerful defense could not be easily blocked, and Jia Yan directly penetrated his body with a single blow. That's all, I'll spare your life. Jia Yan knew that killing the former venerable would cause serious problems, so he deliberately pretended that his front foot was too hindered, and only penetrated a little, then stopped the movement of his front foot. Strength. Just a little bit, this blow will kill the opponent. I lost. Seeing that his body was almost killed, Rao Shizarong felt frightened and quickly admitted defeat. Oh. This newbie is actually a dark horse, has won. On the high platform, even the semi-star level commentator was stunned and spoke in disbelief. The surrounding creatures watching the battle were even more in disbelief. Jia Yan is a dark horse. No one can believe that he can reach the top 10. Then he not only reaches the top 10, but also among the top 10. He has been dark all the way to the end without losing even one time. The strongest king was also pulled down by him in one breath. Jia Yan is incredible. Jia Yan. It's amazing that a newcomer can actually reach this point. It's scary. He must be an above-average genius. Our 215th district is actually able to have an above-average genius. Now besides that thorny appearance, there is another newcomer we can look forward to. One by one, the audience felt incredible about Jia Yan's victory at this moment. Some cheered. They bet on Jia Yan's victory. According to the winning and losing betting ratio, this would be an extremely huge wealth. Jia Yan, on the other hand, was very calm and did not step down. The half-star level expert who explained flew down from the high platform. He is a noble-looking red leopard-like monster. At this time, the other party looked at Jia Yan with some surprise. Hello, Senior. Jia Yan lowered his head to show respect. He knew that this half-star level powerhouse could not be regarded as a commentator, but his strength was second only to the previous giant wolf and was the leader of the entire star region. The second strongest person. Jia Yan, you are very good. I wonder if you are interested in joining our Urshan influence. This semi-stellar powerhouse didn't have too much trouble. He directly used the power of his brainwaves in a low voice to invite Jia Yan. I'm sorry, I have no intention of leaving Wu Xi's force for the time being. Of course, I can't say what will happen in the future. Jia Yan refused at first, but then seemed to give the other party some hope but did not finish his words. He was only temporarily joining Wu Xi's forces. As long as he actually reached it, he would travel on a stronger path in this genius battlefield. Very good. I hope you can carefully consider our Urshan forces. Wu Xi's forces will only slow down your pace. The leopard monster nodded with satisfaction, then took a step forward. Everyone cheers. This is the first winner of the Star District Genius competition, and it is also the first time the biggest dark horse appears in our 215 Star District. Let us look forward to the future of this dark horse. Jia Yan. Well done, Jia Yan. Under the introduction of this half-star powerhouse, Jia Yan was introduced with great honor like the greatest genius. Not long after, Jia Yan withdrew from the fighting platform. One by one, the powerful men in Wu Xi's force looked at Jia Yan, completely sluggish. Whether it was the most powerful Bai Wangfu or some of the weaker venerable monsters, they were all stunned. No one can imagine that Jia Yan, who was casually brought to see the world this time, actually won the first place among the entire sage-level experts in one breath. What does this mean? This shows that this newcomer Jia Yan is actually the most powerful venerable in this star region. You must know that it has only been less than half a year since he joined Wu Xi's force. Jia Yan, did a great job. When Jia Yan came down from the stage, the first thing he heard was Bai Wangfu's dry laughter. At this moment, Bai Wangfu's heart felt like 10,000 grass mud horses were running past. This kid must be slapping me in the face, right? He said that it would be fine if he got 40, but now I get the first place in one breath. Isn't this a slap in the face? He said that my taste is too bad. But this feeling of wanting to curse, when he saw Jia Yan, he couldn't curse at all. This kind of slap in the face was great. He wished he could have this kind of slap in the face every day. One slap in the face would produce a genius who would bring Wu Xi great fame. He would rather be slapped in the face several more times. Haha, Xin lives up to his mission. Jia Yan nodded. Boy. You've done a great job. I'll definitely give you your reward when I get back, Bai Wangfu continued. Thank you. Then Jia Yanfu's eyes lit up, and he thanked with some joy. The resources in other star fields may not be too important to Jia Yan now, but the resources in the genius battlefield are extremely important to Jia Yan. If he can get some good things, it will be of great help to his strength. After Bai Wangfu said this, he looked at the subordinates who were still looking at Jia Yan in a daze, with monster faces in disbelief, and felt a little happy again. Okay, let's give Jia Yan the biggest cheers. He won the first venerable level championship for our Wu Xi forces. This is the joy of our Wu Xi forces, haha. Oh, congratulations, Your Excellency Jia Yan. Yes, congratulations. One by one, the venerables seemed to have come back to their senses and congratulated Jia Yan. They were really stunned. You must know that this is something that has never happened in the entire 215 star area. A genius who has just joined a certain force has won the first place in the Supreme Genius competition. It can be recorded in history. Thanks. Jia Yan responded calmly, with a very calm expression, because he understood that his strength was far more than that. If his performance in the next few years had been known to these beings in advance, what kind of expression would he have now? The cheers are only temporary, and everyone's surprise is only for a moment. A venerable will never become the main topic in the genius battlefield, because the venerable is still too weak. The entire arena quickly calmed down. No matter how strong Jia Yan was, he was just a venerable person. The half-star level commentator announced that the individual battles between the strong men in the second level would continue. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 846. Compared with the battles at the venerable level, the battles between the strong men in the second level are even more terrifying. Jia Yan looked solemnly at the same time. For those who are talented and powerful, there is now an insurmountable gap. He can defeat the ordinary beings among the geniuses and strong ones, but Jia Yan thinks that he is not a match for those who are stronger, let alone the strong ones among them. This battle between geniuses and strong men was also an eye-opening opportunity for him. The number of strong players in the second level was much smaller than that of the venerable players. The competition was almost completed in 2 days. Jia Yan's eyes were opened at the same time. The few powerful people in Wu Xi's force can only be ranked at the bottom. After watching the last battle of the genius who won the first place, Jia Yan shook his head. Several strong men from the second pass around him had ended their battles early, and were now standing beside Jia Yan dejectedly, as if they were trying to find a hole to burrow into. Jia Yan, the venerable number 1 player, had all been brought back, but when they came on the field and saw their opponents, they all wanted to admit defeat, and no one could win. Wu Xi's force could have given people a refreshing feeling, but after a few years after the powerful Siguan came to power, he became a laughing stock again. I thought the Wu Xi force would be different this time, but it turned out that I was just lucky and picked up a venerable genius. He was still the last one. The cold joke of a distinguished person from the neighboring force reached the ears of all the creatures in Wu Xi's force. It made those powerful people in the second pass lower their heads. They blamed Jia Yan a little. He performed too well, and their supposed performance became a joke. The powerful man with the level of venerable laughed, but suddenly felt a terrible sense of pressure. When he turned around, he saw that it was Jia Yan. He suddenly didn't dare to speak. You must know that after the individual battle is over, there will be a group battle. If he faces Wu Xi's force with Jia Yan, although his own force cannot lose, Jia Yan's strength is too strong and he will find an opportunity to kill him. There was nothing he could do to stop him. The battle between the strong men at Siguan gave Jia Yan a lot of insights. But before he could slowly digest it, the highlight of the subsequent Star Sector War, which was the battle between semi-star level experts that truly determined the power of a force, began. I have kept you viewers waiting for a long time. Now begins the most important part of the entire Star Sector War, the battle between geniuses and half-star experts. In the battle between half-star powerhouses, I hope everyone will step back, because in the battle between half-star powerhouses, no one can guarantee what changes will occur. But please don't worry, viewers, there is still our Urshan force here, which has spent a lot of money. We have the financial resources to bring Master Kyoa from the genius battlefield. He will maintain the order of this battle between semi-star level experts. It's Mr. Kyoa. He must have been here a few times before. It's amazing. The Urshan forces can actually invite such powerful stars to come here to maintain order. Jia Yan was also shocked after hearing the words of this semi-star level commentator. In this game, there is actually a star level present. After the powerful commentator finished speaking, a huge existence, like a huge planet, slowly emerged from the other side of the planet of power in the sky. He was about 2 kilometers in size, so big that it was almost impossible to see his whole face, but Jia Yan's eyes immediately analyzed his appearance. He turned out to be an insect monster like an ant on the earth. The fact that ants can grow so huge would be astonishing to anyone on Earth. But that was not what shocked Jia Yan. After all, in the starry sky, it would not be surprising for any kind of monster to appear. He was shocked that this huge monster appeared outside the star, but he didn't notice it at all. Moreover, the body of this monster seemed to be stronger than the two stellar ones he had seen before. The entire audience was shocked by the appearance of the monster. This monster must be quite famous. Master Kyo, you are indeed here. Thank you for accepting our invitation. The half-star leopard monster who was explaining the story quickly bowed his head and saluted the huge ant monster that appeared. Star-level monsters, even in the eyes of their semi-star level geniuses, are a superior existence. Any star-level monster is a genius among geniuses, even the star-level outsiders are like this, or in other words, their entire geniuses. The ultimate goal of the battlefield is to cultivate stars to the level of stars. Therefore, when seeing a star-level powerhouse, except for a very few top geniuses in the genius battlefield who dare to do whatever they want, other geniuses do not dare to show any disrespect. Haha, idleness is idleness. I would also like to thank you for allowing me to see a battle worth watching. The huge ant monster made a faint sound. Everyone thought that this strong man was speaking politely, but at this moment, Jia Yan, one of the countless geniuses below, seemed to feel that this huge star-level strong man glanced at him, as if intentionally or unintentionally. This glance was so quick that even Jia Yan thought it was just an illusion. Huh? Did he see what I was hiding? Jia Yan was surprised. But thinking about Jia Yan, he felt relieved. A star-level person whose power was terrifying, and he was such a terrifying star-level person. His cover-up during the battle must have been just childish in the eyes of the opponent. Bar. This strong man is an official presence in the genius battlefield. I don't know how many geniuses I have seen. He probably won't target me in particular. There is no reason to target me, so it's just a matter of being seen through by him. It shouldn't be anything big. Danger. After Jia Yan thought for a while, he calmed down again. If he is attracted by a semi-star, Jia Yan feels that he still has a chance to struggle, but facing a star, he feels that there is no need to resist, and it is impossible to struggle. Fortunately, this stellar powerhouse didn't seem to really want to target Jia Yan or anything. Okay, it's my turn to end the battle between geniuses and half-stars. Now let's let a strong person from our Urshan force come to explain. I hope everyone can support him. The commentator. After the half-star powerhouse finished speaking, he flew down from the battle circle. At the same time, a half-star level expert also flew towards the high platform quickly. Among them is Wu Xi's only half-star powerhouse, Bai Huangfu. Jia Yan, our power is indeed not strong, but I hope you can stay in this power, so let my performance give you a little trust. Bai Huangfu actually understood that Jia Yan had received invitations from many semi-star level experts, and when flying to the battle stage, he specially sent a brainwave power transmission to Jia Yan. Okay, now I announce that the battle for the half-star level experts in the 215th sector has begun. A strong person from the second level replaced the half-star strong person who explained, came to the high platform and passionately announced the start of the battle. War. 1.5-star level experts went up to the high platform and conducted a lottery. There are not many semi-star level experts fighting, only a few dozen, so their battle will not last long. When this group of semi-star level experts were drawing numbers, the entire auditorium automatically retreated, and the surrounding team of players also hurriedly flew up one by one and arrived in the distance. There is a combat area of more than 20 kilometers in radius on the entire huge star. Although this is still too small for the semi-star level experts, it is barely enough for them to perform. The lottery number has been chosen. Sir Kyo, please declare the battle. When the second level expert saw the audience retreating, and then the half-star level experts all chose their numbers, they respectfully addressed the 2-kilometer behemoth in the sky. Well, let's get started, the ant-like stellar powerhouse said softly. Number 1, versus number 2, start. The second level expert heard the order from this great star level expert and directly announced the name of the battle. Jia Yan, who was in a distant area, looked at him with unprecedented intensity at this moment. How powerful the semi-star level expert in the genius battlefield is, will soon be revealed in his eyes. Boom. Boom. Two half-star level experts flew directly into the battle circle, while the other half-star level experts stayed away one by one. The fluctuations emitted by the two powerful men were extremely terrifying. The semi-star level powerhouse who had previously suppressed his own fluctuations in the spectator seats or the player seats now exploded, making Jia Yan feel extremely powerful. The frightening powers confront each other from afar. Please. Please. Although they were monsters, the two gentle semi-star level experts greeted each other. Then the battle begins. So strong. Jia Yan saw the battle on the stage. Although it was far away, the fluctuation still shocked him extremely. Occasionally, a wave that could kill people was revealed. The official star-level expert in the genius battlefield named K. Wu, who was high in the sky, had a faint flash of light in his eyes. After that, the wave disappeared invisible. Jia Yan's eyes were filled with fear. The semi-star level experts in the battle were powerful, but this K. Wu in the sky was more than 100 times more powerful. Okay, let's fight. I can feel that I have gained a lot from watching these semi-star level battles. After I go back and sort them out, I can turn them into my own things. Very good. Jia Yan watched the battle on the stage while frantically absorbing the experience and benefits on the battlefield. Perhaps in this genius battlefield, there has never been an evolved beast from the distant Orion arm who has gone crazy to gain combat experience here. Jia Yan's strength is not strong yet, but the terrifying thing about him as an evolved beast is not at all whether he is strong or not, but his terrifying ability to become stronger. Not only can he absorb the power of matter, but he can also absorb extremely terrifying combat experience during battles and observations. Seeing a semi-star level expert fighting, Jia Yan felt that his experience had soared. As long as he understands it properly, these combat experiences will be transformed into his own things, and after some actual combat training, his current strength will be greatly improved. This is the terror of evolved beasts. Because of the scarcity of evolved beasts and the uniqueness of Jia Yan, the above words may be said, this is the terror of Jia Yan. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 847. What a wonderful battle! Congratulations to the victorious Northern Lance Force, Lord Tiandong. Next up are Lord Koao of number 3 and Lord Hiereo of number 4. Please come on. Just when Jia Yan finished watching the first battle and was savoring the rewards in his heart, the second-level commentator on the high platform called out a name that was familiar to him. Better than Huangfu. Jia Yan's heart moved. Bai Wangfu doesn't seem to be a powerful genius at the semi-star level, but he told Jia Yan that he wanted to show him his strength. So how will his performance be? Jia Yan is somewhat interested in this. When Hiereo's slender body came onto the stage, his opponent was already on stage as well. Bai Wangfu, Jr., you'd better admit defeat quickly. I won't bully you, a person who has just been promoted and has reached the semi-star level. The opponent started uttering wild words as soon as he took the stage. He is a jelly-like creature, but his whole body is dark and extremely disgusting. I'm sorry, I won't admit defeat. You and I are both half-stars. We haven't fought before, so it's not necessarily who will lose and who will win, right? A strange light flashed in Bai Wangfu's eyes, and then his eyes turned to Jia Yan of Wu Si's forces, but he quickly turned back. It seems that you, Wu Si, have some great luck. Did picking up a genius give you confidence? If you don't admit defeat, don't blame me if any danger arises later. When the jelly monster heard that Bai Huangfu was so disrespectful, he immediately became jealous. The two didn't have too many conversations, so they started immediately. Bai Wangfu curled up his body coldly, and then exposed his feet to the outside world. The whole thing looked like a circular saw blade. The opponent spread out and turned into a pool of water, directly covering him, turning Bai Wangfu into a saw blade and completely enveloping him. The strength of both sides is at the semi-star level, and a move can be described as earth-shattering. Boom boom boom. As the heaven and earth trembled, two terrifying waves rumbled continuously in the sky. Although the opponent had some advantages, after all, he had completely enveloped Bai Wangfu into his body, but Bai Wangfu was constantly spinning at this time, just like a real saw blade, constantly spinning in the opponent's water-like body. In terms of cutting, it didn't fall too far behind. This move of Lord Baiarao may seem simple, but it is definitely his own unique move. Jia Yan can clearly see that the more powerful the experts are, the simpler their moves are. Because they are not distracted, the moves and strength they develop will be purer. This is the case with Baiarao now. He kept cutting into the opponent's body without being hurt too much. Apart from the fact that the moves looked simple, there was no place where his strength was not reflected. These feet cannot be so sharp without long-term tempering and special enhancement. He is not an evolved beast like me. To reach this level, it is not something that can be achieved by ordinary people. Jia Yan understood how Bai Wangfu was able to fight against this jelly half-star powerhouse even though he was much weaker than himself. The reason is none other than that he is confident in his actual combat strength. The battlefield was changing. After Bai Wangfu found that he could not break the opponent's blockade for the time being, he changed his fighting method and stretched his whole body inside the opponent's jelly body. Poof! His slender body, tail, and head were immediately exposed from the jelly strongman's body, and then his countless feet squirmed quickly like rowing boats. Haha, it's useless, it's useless. Your strength is too weak. If you enter my body, you will only lose. The strong jelly man laughed happily. Even though Bai Wangfu seemed to be moving bravely, he did not suffer any damage. It won't work. I'm really not as powerful as Mr. Huangfu. A respected figure from Wuxi's force was beside Jia Yan and said with some despair as he looked at this scene. Wuxi's force is different from other forces. They only have one semi-star strong person they can rely on, and this strong person can't even win the first game now, and it seems that his strength is far behind the others. After going out like this, maybe some forces with malicious intentions will come to cause trouble. If the half-star powerhouse is not strong enough, this force will have no confidence, and even safety cannot be guaranteed, so now Bai Wangfu loses, which is a huge blow to Wuxi's force. Am I weak? Okay, let me show you that your biggest failure is letting me enter your body. When Bai Wangfu, the jelly expert, thought that the victory was certain, he shouted loudly. Then I saw a red flow in his cold eyeballs. After that, I saw traces of red liquid spit out from Bai Wangfu's countless feet, directly passing through the parts in contact with the opponent, and then entering the opponent's black body. What is this? Poison. Not good. After the jelly monster's demeanor changed, he actually showed a look of great fear in an instant. After that, his expression changed drastically, and he quickly vomited Bai Wangfu. I saw bubbles rising like boiling water on his jelly-like body, which then made him scream in agony. Poison. When Jia Yan in the audience saw this scene, he also showed a trace of shock, and then he felt a little relieved. He knew why Bai Wangfu dared to praise himself so much when he was in a weak state. It turns out there is such a trump card. Bai Wangfu, you are so cruel. You dare to use poison in a battle between geniuses. The jelly half-star powerhouse seemed to be unable to stand still. He staggered around to avoid Bai Wangfu's pursuit. Huh, Genius Jean didn't say that poison can't be used, and this is my own poison, and I didn't use any external objects, right? Bai Wangfu snorted disdainfully, and then continued to pursue. Forget it, I surrender. Bai Wangfu, we are not done with this. The jelly half-star powerhouse obviously had some other methods that he had not used yet, but now he surrendered. As his words ended, a terrifying force suddenly struck from the space. The two powerful men were suppressed with almost no resistance, and then the power slowly sent them out of the fighting stage. Number 4 wins this battle. A faint voice came from the sky. The one who used the power was the extremely powerful star-level monster. Bai Wangfu saluted the stellar monster from afar, and then returned to Wu Ci's forces. If anyone has no confidence in Bai Huangfu, a semi-star powerhouse, it's all the genius monsters in Wu Ci's force. They didn't think that Bai Wangfu, the leader who was promoted directly from the venerable to the semi-star level, didn't have much strength. After all, most of the other semi-star levels entered the semi-star level through the secondary level. Compared with Bai Wangfu, who was promoted from the venerable level, he has gone through a level of experience and must be much stronger. But they never expected that Bai Wangfu could win. Master Bai Areo, congratulations. Everyone who had looked down on Bai Wangfu came forward to congratulate Bai Wangfu, and at the same time their expressions became respectful. Regardless of his previous status, Bai Wangfu is now the most powerful being in the entire Wu Ci force and the strongest supporter. He has also shown with his own strength that he has the ability to defeat a being of the same level. This couldn't help but make his subordinates who didn't have much respect for him start to respect Huangfu. Jia Yan, you see, there is still someone in Wu Ci's force who can win besides you. Bai Wangfu walked straight to Jia Yan, looked at Jia Yan, and said softly. Yes, he is much stronger than Master Huangfu. But in my opinion, don't you want to play in the next match? Jia Yan nodded, and then said the second half of the sentence hesitantly. Bai Wangfu was startled, then smiled bitterly and shook his head. Yes, I have no choice but to admit defeat in the next game. I have used all my trump cards. I will also be looking for abuse in the next game. I will admit defeat in the next game. Jia Yan nodded. There was nothing strange about him. The reason for the formation of toxins in living organisms is always the result of long-term care. He just used so much than Huangfu, and now it is basically impossible to use it again. Even if yes, he must wait to use it at a more important moment. Find bookstore. Then admitting defeat will be the only option. Wu Ci's half-star force can win a game, which is beyond everyone's expectations. After Bai Wangfu left the stage, there was nothing going on with Wu Ci's forces during the entire personal battle. Afterwards, it turned out to be as expected before the game. Among the half-star powerhouses, the giant wolf monster named Wolfstar became the strongest half-star powerhouse. And the Bill powerhouse, who was the commentator before, then he became the second strongest. Okay, contestants, the next step is the team battle. This battle is a battle between two major forces. The Venerable versus the Venerable, and the strong in the second level versus the strong in the second level. Those who want to admit defeat can come up. Sign up. The half-star power commentator who had just lost to Wolfstar came to the high platform as if nothing had happened, announced the end of the individual battle, and announced that this group battle was about to begin. Jia Yan, how about you stop playing later? Just when Jia Yan thought that he would go on stage to show off his talents in a team battle later, Bai Wangfu, who was beside him, sent a message to him. Huh? I don't have to play, why? Jia Yan asked strangely. Although your strength is strong, you won't be of much help in group battles. After all, you are not a high-level genius. If you were, you would be able to sweep through the same level teams here. But you are not, so why don't you go up? I can see the path, and it is a path of personal warfare. Instead of cooperating with others and wasting energy, it is better to watch from the side, and bystanders can see clearly, and maybe you can get some inspiration. Bai Wangfu has a clear view of Jia Yan's strength. He understands that Jia Yan is a lone ranger. Letting him participate in team battles may bring 1 win and 2 wins to Wu Ci's forces, but this is not a good match for Jia Yan. It won't be of much help, so it's better not to go. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 848. Of course, what Bai Wangfu didn't say is that if Jia Yan comes on the stage, there may be other forces that will let a group of sages deliberately besiege Jia Yan. Although Jia Yan is powerful, he can't beat four hands with two fists. If Yan caused any casualties, he would not want to see it. Well, I won't participate in group battles. I hope other venerables can work hard. Jia Yan thought about it and realized that his style was indeed to fight alone, and cooperating with others might affect his own style, so forget it. So he nodded in agreement. The noble fighting teams of one faction were originally worried about Jia Yan of Wu Xi's faction. After all, he is the number one in the personal battle among all the venerables, so it is impossible not to be on guard against such strength. But what they didn't expect was that in the first team battle of Wu Xi's forces, Jia Yan, a strong man, was not arranged to fight. Kill. One after another, strong men collided continuously in the starry sky, and some strong men were injured or even died. Jia Yan silently watched the battle on the field, and then he felt a little grateful that he did not participate in the team battle. Team battles are not a place to test one's strength, but more about cooperation with teammates. Jia Yan has no relevant experience at all. If he really goes on the field to cooperate with other strong players in Wu Xi's force, he might really be able to do it. It may affect your future combat effectiveness. The venerables of Wu Xi's forces were also with Jia Yan, watching the battle in the starry sky. It is said that they are all observing, but in fact, Wu Xi's forces have already lost. This cooperation is great. It seems that you should be careful when encountering this force in the future. Jia Yan couldn't help but sigh after seeing the cooperation of a team in Tianji. The team battle was an eye-opener for him. Other forces had some coordination abilities, which made Jia Yan feel that he was not easy to deal with. And all the venerables around were embarrassed to speak. Although Jia Yan is among them, his strength and vision are far beyond them, and they all seem to be able to vaguely feel that Jia Yan is making progress every moment in this genius battle, and what he has achieved now to what extent, no one knows. Well, the final result of the group battle is that the Urshan forces won the final victory in the group battle. When the final result of the group battle that was roaring in the sky came out, the semi-star powerhouse on the high platform announced the final result. As a method of organizing genius battles in the star area, Urshan's strength is terrible here. Although they lost to the other half-star powerhouse Wolf Star in the battle between half-star powerhouses, their strength is still the most powerful in the entire star region. Especially their most terrifying group battles. Once dozens of venerables unite, they can even kill a sub-level powerhouse. And if more than a dozen venerables unite, they might not even be able to kill a half-star powerhouse. Everyone will drink hatred. Okay, this year's Star Zone Genius competition is over. All the major champion forces can get the prizes they deserve. Come and collect them later. The commentating leopard monster announced the end of the game to the audience. Huh? Aren't the sub-level experts and the half-star level experts going to engage in group battles? Jia Yan asked the Wu Ci power lords on the left and right in a daze. All the venerables suddenly understood that Jia Yan was still a strong man who had just joined the genius battlefield, and he had not yet understood many regulations. But such a newcomer won the first place among the venerables in one fell swoop, and they all wanted to find a hole in the ground to crawl into. Jia Yan, you don't know something. This Star Zone Genius Battle is not officially organized by the Genius Battle Zone, so there are no conditions for group battles between sub-level experts and semi-star experts. Otherwise, who do you think can stop them? What will happen as a result of the explosion? There are also some forces that are unable to form a team at the second level. How will they be arranged then? Therefore, the genius group battle organized by the Urshan forces is only at the venerable level. Seeing that Jia Yan really didn't understand, a venerable man quickly explained in a flattering manner. Jia Yan lowered his head and pondered for a while, and then realized that this was indeed the case. Although Urshan's power is powerful enough to invite a star-level powerhouse from the genius battlefield to supervise the battle, this kind of supervision now seems to be more of a kind of supervision. If they wanted to hold a larger level group battle, genius battlefield might stop them. Okay, Jia Yan, let's go get the prize together. While Jia Yan was thinking, Bai Wangfu came to Jia Yan and said to him. Prize. Jia Yan's eyes flashed with joy when he heard this. Why was he fighting back and forth, and not for the reward of this genius battlefield? All the venerable monsters are somewhat envious of Jia Yan. Even if the Star Zone genius battle in the genius battlefield is not officially organized, the official will provide some material support. This is enough to make all the venerables envious. Of course, they also understand that they do not have Jia Yan's strength, they are envious, and they have no idea that Jia Yan cannot get it. Jia Yan, Bai Wangfu, and two strong men from the second pass moved forward together. Jia Yan, it's all thanks to you this time, otherwise we might never have a chance to go to this award-winning place in our lifetime. A strong man from Sichuan said with a smile in his eyes when he saw Jia Yan who was following him. Although this strong man seems to be kind now, he was very disgusted with Jia Yan before. Haha, senior, I'm grateful. I believe that even without me, Wu Xi's forces will one day embark on this path. Jia Yan just laughed, and then didn't say much. Jia Yan, don't be too modest. In my opinion, your strength may not take 50 years to surpass us, or even reach the strongest half-star level in the entire 215-star area. Don't worry about it then, just forget about us. Bai Wangfu shook his head at Jia Yan from the front for the first time. 50 years? The strongest in the 215th sector, a ranking expert nearby, was stunned when he heard Bai Wangfu's evaluation of Jia Yan. They also understand that Jia Yan has great potential, otherwise they would not be so courteous, but can he reach the top half-star level powerhouse in the 215 sector within 50 years? This is unlikely, right? They all didn't believe it. Jia Yan's talent was high, but after practicing for 100 or 200 years, they all had to think about whether he could reach the top of the 215th sector. 50 years later? In that short time, Jia Yan will be able to reach the strongest level in the 215th star district? Just kidding. Senior Baiario, I will try my best. What they didn't expect was that Jia Yan, the client, did not refute or deny what Bai Wangfu said. Instead, he nodded as if it were natural and said he would work hard. Even Bai Wangfu, the being who said this, couldn't help but turn around and look at Jia Yan who was following him. Jia Yan certainly felt confident at the moment. Why doesn't he have the confidence? You must know that Jia Yan is still hiding his clumsiness now. His actual strength is not afraid even if he faces the strong man from last time. Moreover, he felt that his strength was improving faster and faster in the genius battlefield, so let alone reaching the strongest in the 215-star area in 50 years, his ideas were even more ambitious. In 50 years, I wonder if I will be able to reach the strongest level below the star level in the entire genius battlefield. His eyes flashed with brilliance as he thought about his true plan. In 50 years, he has reached the strongest level below the star level in the entire genius battlefield. You know, this includes all the geniuses in the entire genius battlefield. Jia Yan's dream is extremely terrifying, but he does not find it difficult, and even feels that the time can be shorter. If he tells it, others will definitely say that he is crazy. Okay, we're here, Jia Yan, look at my eyes when you go in. The things Master Kyoa brings out must be the best. When the time comes, you can take whatever I ask you to take. When a group of powerful men walked in front of a huge starry sky building, Bai Wangfu stopped and sent a message to Jia Yan. Okay. After being informed by the strong men at the door, they entered together. There is only one floor in this huge building, but this floor seems too small for the strong man inside. This is a huge monster, with a body of 2 or 3 kilometers in length. Jiayan is already more than 100 meters in size. With his 4 legs spread out, he can cover a radius of 400 meters. But in front of the opponent, he is like an inconspicuous flea, extremely inconspicuous. Find the book garden. This strong man is the official strong man of the genius battlefield invited by the Star Zone Genius Battle, Kwu. At this time, this star-level being was looking at the few Wuci powerhouses who came over. He didn't know if Jiayan was delusional. He felt that the other party's eyes were lingering on him for a while. I've seen Kwu, senior. When all the Wuci powerful men came in front of Kwu, they all bowed their heads respectfully. Yes. Wuci's force, right? It is extremely rare for your force to have a number 1 at the venerable level. In order to show your ability to train new people, here are a few small gifts. Take them. Nakyo made a deafening sound, which made all the Wuci powerful men stagger and almost fall down. But they all showed joy. Although they knew that this was just a routine, they couldn't hide their joy when they saw Kwu using the power of brain waves to control the materials to fly to their feet. After giving them the reward, Kwu still had an indifferent expression. He turned to Jiayan. When the other party's eyes turned to him, Jiayan seemed to be attracted by a deep tunnel feeling. His eyes were so deep, as if there was a kind of magic power that made Jiayan unable to extricate himself. Humph! Just when Jiayan was almost lost in consciousness, a strong sense of rage flashed in the depths of his mind, causing Jiayan to snort. After this sound, he immediately recovered from the attraction of those eyes. It's really good. Nakyo showed a hint of surprise, and then he nodded. 3 supply packages flew down. Jiayan, these 3 supplies are officially prepared by Genius Battlefield to reward you, but you can only choose one of them. Now, you choose, Kwu said calmly. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 849. 3 rewards. Jiayan looked at the powerful men of Wuci's force around him, and when he saw that they were all very calm, he understood that this was the norm. Jiayan, try to see which of these 3 packages has the greatest sense of power. Bai Wangfu's voice reached Jiayan's ears. Yeah, Jiayan nodded, and then felt it slightly. He is some distance away from Bai Wangfu and others, and the sense of power in these 3 packages is not strong enough to be conveyed to Bai Wangfu and other strong people. Jiayan was slightly surprised when he realized the first green package. He felt that the thing inside was good to him, and seemed to be able to swallow even his body. Jiayan wanted to pick this one right now, but after his mind calmed down, he turned to the next yellow package. The feeling here is a new one. Well, the energy here is also powerful, but it's not something I can swallow. Jiayan pondered for a moment. He guessed that the contents of the 2 packages were one of his own materials, and the other was a weapon or even armor. Jiayan then turned his attention to the next red package. His brainwave power was slowly released, and then a faint radiation spread from the package. It should be a high-tech item. This kind of thing may be good for the entire force, but it doesn't have much effect on me personally. Jiayan is not a technology geek, nor does he like alien high-tech supplies, so he has never had much desire for high-tech things. Jiayan, can you feel what's inside? Bai Wangfu's voice sounded in Jiayan's ears. Above the tall room, the star-level monster Kyo, who was leaning slightly, could definitely hear the conversation between the 2 people, but he did not interrupt. It seemed that this was a common rule when distributing items. Jiayan told Bai Wangfu truthfully. Choose the 3rd piece. This piece can greatly enhance the strength of our forces. With it, our astral components will be more powerful and can absorb a huge amount of starry sky matter without collapsing. After listening to the items mentioned by Jia Yan, Bai Wangfu was almost excited. He did not expect that there could be such a good reward even among the mere venerable level champions. But his words made Jia Yan silent for a moment. "What's wrong, little guy, don't you choose the third one?" as he said. Na Kyo, who was looking down at Jia Yan, saw Jia Yan's hesitation, and then asked in a cold voice. Jia Yan raised his head and looked at a strong man like he was looking at a mountain. This was the feeling Jia Yan had when he was a little mosquito. In front of this strong man, Jia Yan felt extremely weak. He didn't like this feeling of weakness. Everyone knew that Kwu could hear the conversation between them, so it was not surprising that the other party could say these words. Jia Yan's silence seemed a little uncomfortable to Bai Wangfu, and he was also a little unhappy in his heart. Even if Jia Yan, a newcomer, is the most powerful among the venerables, in the eyes of a half-star powerhouse, he is nothing more than a chess piece at most. And now if this chess piece wants to rebel against him, he doesn't mind giving the opponent a little taste of pain. But he can't do it now. I choose the first one. Suddenly, just when Bai Wangfu was getting a little unhappy waiting, Jia Yan raised his head and was indifferent to the guests in the sky. "Oh, little guy, are you sure?" Kwu looked at Jia Yan with a half smile, then looked at Bai Wangfu, who almost jumped up after hearing this, and asked softly. "I am sure." Jia Yan glanced at Bai Wangfu. Although the other person's eyes put great pressure on him now, but when he looked at Kyo who needed to look up, Jia Yan confirmed his true intentions. If his true thoughts were suppressed by a half-star powerhouse, he would not be considered Jia Yan himself. Bai Wangfu's previous help was indeed very helpful to Jia Yan, but now it seems that the other party also has his own selfish motives, and he is not such a good person. So why doesn't Jia Yan choose according to his own needs? Okay, now that you are sure, I will take away the other two copies. Kyuding Jia Yan made the decision, and then with a movement of his brainwave power, the yellow and red packages slowly flew up. Only the green package that gave Jia Yan great appeal was left. Bai Wangfu stood next to Jia Yan, his slender body swaying slightly in anger. When he saw Kwu Hao looking at them expressionlessly above his head, his eyes trembled and he stopped moving. "This half-star level cannot threaten me." Jia Yan looked at the opponent like a clown, and then looked at Kwu in the sky, hope flashing in his eyes. He believes that his future is destined to be above the star level, even far beyond the stellar level, so he naturally does not need to worry about the threat of half-star level. If he doesn't even have this kind of ambition, his future is destined to be far-fetched. After receiving your reward, you can leave. The reward from Wu Xi's forces this time will be delivered to you after a while, so I won't give it away. Kwu glanced at Jia Yan twice. Under this look, Jia Yan felt that all his hidden strength seemed to be exposed. After walking out of the huge starry sky room, Bai Wangfu walked across to Jia Yan first. "Jia Yan, why didn't you listen to my advice? Do you think that because you have become the strongest venerable in the entire 215-star district, you can ignore my orders?" "I don't dare, sir, I'm just loyal to myself. Besides, this reward is for me." "Isn't there a reward from power that I've already mentioned?" Jia Yan shook his head without being humble or condescending. "Jia Yan, I helped you before. If you think it's natural, then you are wrong. Forget it this time. Next time, I hope you can think more about the power. We train you. It's not there is no selfish intention, do you understand?" Bai Wangfu's face turned cold. "Well, I understand." Jia Yan nodded. His demeanor is no longer as close as before. Jia Yan had some affection for Bai Wangfu before, but now he looks snobbish. Jia Yan finally understands his thoughts. Although he didn't make a big mistake, if he wanted Jia Yan to think about his power, then forget it. Jia Yan has always been a person. He does not deny that Wu Xi's influence is helpful to Jia Yan, but he does not want to interrupt his own progress for the sake of influence during the fastest promotion period. In the future, it does not mean that he cannot help them. Some benefits. During this festival, the intimacy between Jia Yan and Bai Huangfu was completely gone. For some things, no one is right or wrong, it's just a matter of looking at the problem from different perspectives. Let's go back. Arriving at the place where Wu Xi's force members stayed, Bai Huangfu immediately announced his return home before a group of powerful men came forward to inquire about rewards. When the huge battleship was launched, the strong men around them heard what happened from the mouths of several strong men in the sub-level. A strong man named Wu Xi looked at Jia Yan, and he became a little unfriendly. Although everyone lives for themselves, and the strong do things for their own strength, in this small force, if the force becomes stronger, it means that individuals will also obtain more resources, and Jia Yan just for themselves, they waited in vain. Jia Yan doesn't care so much. His brainwave power controlled the roughly 10-meter large green package and returned to his room. Because he got the honorable title, Jia Yan was previously announced to have a room of his own. Although the room is not big, you can still have your own small space. He placed the package in the room. This substance should be something that strengthens itself. Jia Yan opened the package while thinking, "Wow, I can finally come out and take a breath. There are so many strong people, and Adita doesn't even dare to come out." When Jia Yan was wrapping up the package, the little Adisha jumped out of his body, looking like a real creature, breathing heavily. "Adisha, do you know what this is?" At this moment, Jia Yan had opened the package, and inside he saw a crystal-like object, like a diamond magnified thousands of times. It was shiny and extremely dazzling. "Oh, Adisha knows." Adisha flew up, letting the crystal fly several times, and then said, "This is something called a star core. It is something that is only produced on few planets. And it has a great absorption effect on ordinary living bodies. Master, your physique is designed to absorb it. I think your effect will be at least 10 times that of others." A star core body. A strange light flashed in Jia Yan's eyes, and then without caring about anything else, he directly took out his needle and pierced it into the crystal. It is impossible for ordinary stones to block Jia Yan's needle, not to mention that when Jia Yan penetrates the outer film, the internal material softens instantly. Jia Yan was sucking it like jelly, sucking it in bite after bite. "Master, do you feel comfortable drinking?" If Adisha couldn't drink, she would have wanted to take a sip and see. Her mouth is watering. It tastes so sweet. Adisha was flying quickly on the side, a little envious of Jia Yan's ability to drink. The star core body in Jia Yan's mouth is indeed very delicious. For Jia Yan, he has long been accustomed to countless destructive substances, but this star core body is not destructive at all and does not hurt or itch. Jia Yan was thinking in his heart, it would be great if every substance he swallowed was so peaceful. But of course that's not possible. This star core body was not as peaceful as Jia Yan thought. Instead, after swallowing it for a while, a hot power emitted from Jia Yan's body. Ordinary venerables and even sub-level experts might find it unbearable because of the heat, but Jia Yan just took a few hits and then there was nothing wrong with him. He had swallowed too many strange things, and most of them made him miserable. This kind of astral core body was simply trivial. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 850. Well, this is really good stuff. The update is so fast. I feel that my venerable strength has gradually improved, but the dispersion of this power takes too long, and it will probably take many days to digest it. Finished. The effect is not as powerful as the substances I swallowed before. There was still a sweet taste in Jia Yan's mouth needle, and he had endless aftertaste. This was the first time he had drunk something that made him feel delicious. To be honest, Jia Yan still wanted it. Maybe something that can be used by the genius battlefield as a reward for the Star District venerable champion must not be that simple. If Jia Yan wants it, he doesn't know what price he has to pay. Just when Jia Yan finished drinking the substance and didn't know what the final effect would be, Bai Huangfu's voice sounded outside the door of his room. Jia Yan, come to the meeting hall. The other party's words have become colder, and he seems to be using a commanding tone. Jia Yan smiled and walked out of the room without paying much attention. Coming to the meeting hall, this is the largest hall in the entire battleship, but it can only accommodate a few powerful people above the level. Jia Yan saw several powerful men and Bai Huangfu were there. Jia Yan, we just discussed it. In fact, what you did was not wrong. As long as we work hard to make you stronger, the effect will not be worse than getting astral technology. After all, strong people are the foundation of a force. As soon as he met Jia Yan, Bai Huangfu seemed to understand what Jia Yan said. Well, as long as you understand, I will help Wu Xi's forces in the future. Jia Yan nodded, not knowing how true his words were. Jia Yan, this matter you got this time, I can think of it as a star core body. This kind of thing has some effect on the strong people in the second level. I don't think you can use that much by yourself, so why not give it to them, everyone? The overall strength has increased, which will maximize the effect on our Wu Ci power, right? Bai Huangfu said with a smile. Jia Yan immediately understood that this was what the other party had in mind. But at the same time, he was also a little funny. Fortunately, he acted quickly, otherwise, the star core body would have been divided to an unknown extent. So he shook his head very bachelorly, Master Bai Huangfu, I also want to share the star core body, but if you didn't tell me earlier, I had already eaten the star core body in the room just now. Impossible. As soon as Jia Yan finished speaking, a certain powerful monster at the next level said this. There was some fierceness in his eyes as he looked at Jia Yan. Jia Yan, how can you, a venerable person, digest so many star cores? You will explode now after eating them. Let me tell you, I feel like I am about to have something break through. If you give me 1/3, no, half of the star core body, I might be able to break through to half a star level. In that way, our Wu Ci force will be able to gain 1.5 star level. Can you? Don't harm the interests of the entire force because of your private interests. That's right, Jia Yan, each of us is almost able to advance due to long-term training. If you can separate part of the star core body, then our strength will be improved, and it will be beneficial to the entire Wu in the future. These forces are all good things, so what? Don't say that you really have the ability to eat that star core body. Another strong man from Sichuan also came forward and said coldly to Jia Yan. After knowing that Jia Yan had a falling out with Bai Huangfu, the strongest person in Wu Ci's power, these powerful people from the second level who had ordinary feelings towards Jia Yan all wanted to get involved in the star core body. They also thought that since Jia Yan's face was so big this time, there might be forces coming to poach him soon. Instead of being taken advantage of by the poaching forces, it would be better to use their righteousness to let Jia Yan give up part of the star core body. But their plans will all come to nothing. Because Jia Yan really swallowed the star core body. No matter how powerful a strong man is, he cannot spit out what he has eaten and then feed it to others, right? Even if you can really vomit, it's not certain whether others will be willing to eat it. Everyone, I really ate it. If you don't believe me, you can try using energy sensing. Jia Yan shook his head helplessly. Huh? You are still insisting on this point. I said it is impossible for the venerable to take so much, The strong man from the secondary level who spoke earlier used his brainwave power impatiently, and then he was stunned. How could you really swallow so many star cores? Another Sichuan strongman also discovered that Jia Yan's body was different. After using his brainwave power to explore, he immediately made a sound of shock. Even Bai Huangfu was shocked after investigating. You must know that swallowing so many star cores in one breath is impossible for an average venerable level person to do. Even for a sub-level expert, using a large amount of star cores in one breath requires an extremely painful process. And Jia Yan looked like he had swallowed so many star cores and still didn't react at all. This shocked Ri. I told you a long time ago, I have already swallowed it, you still don't believe it. Jia Yan shook his head, and then he looked at the stunned Wu Ci high-level officials, and asked calmly, since there is nothing we can do about it, once you save it, I will go back. Sorry, if there is a reward next time, I will remember to leave some for you. Of course, if you can make it in time. Jia Yan added in his heart, and then left the meeting hall. The next few strong men in the second pass, including Bai Wangfu, were all speechless for a long time. Everyone, you see, I have tried my best. The only thing to blame is that Jia Yan is too evil. Bai Wangfu looked at the unwilling masters of the second level, and then said helplessly. Yes, who would have thought that a venerable person like him could swallow so many star core bodies as if nothing happened? This kid is really unbelievable. I'm afraid I'll leave him with a lot of trouble this time. Good impression. In the future, he will be alienated from our Wu Ci forces. He is not a strong person from our traditional sphere of influence. A strong person from the next level said with some worry. Don't be afraid. He behaved so unnaturally this time. There must be other forces coming to invite him. Otherwise, why do you think I had such an attitude towards him before? It's a pity that Kong offended someone but gained nothing. Bai Huangfu took over the words and also explained the reason why his attitude towards Jia Yan changed. It turned out that the senior officials of Wu Ci's forces who were here thought that Jia Yan would not stay in Wu Ci's forces for a long time. As expected. Just when Jia Yan returned to his room and slowly neutralized the power of the star core body, in just one day, he felt that his power exploded by 1%. Jia Yan, someone is looking for you on the communication channel. Jia Yan heard an unnatural sound in the room. This is the voice of a strong person in the second level. Jia Yan was stunned, and followed the other party's instructions to connect to the communication channel. Hello, Jia Yan, we met once, do you still remember me? A tiger-like monster was opposite the holographic image of the communicator. He showed a kind smile and looked very peaceful to Jia Yan. Yes, remember. I wonder who you are looking for me, Jia Yan responded, and then asked with some confusion. He saw that the other party was a powerful semi-star level man, so he showed some respect. As for where he had seen him, God knows. The other party obviously didn't care whether Jia Yan really remembered him. At this time, he nodded kindly, looking at Jia Yan as if he was seeing a junior. Sure enough, he is a powerful and talented junior. Even I, who only met him once, remember, Jia Yan, you performed very well in the previous star battle. After I watched your battle in the audience, I felt that you are in Wu Ci's power. I'm a little overachieved. I wonder if you would like to come to my 211th district. I am the third leader of the Lonkan force in the 211th district. If you join us, you will definitely develop more than the Wu Ci force. I don't know what. The other party talked to Jia Yan for a long time. Jia Yan was startled after hearing this. Isn't this Ji Qiaoqiu's attempt to pull someone in? Do people from Wu Ci's forces allow it? Jia Yan thought about it. It wasn't that they didn't allow it, but it was probably because he didn't have the strength to allow it. If you dare to let go of the channel, people may have a bad impression of Wu Ci's force. Direct attack may not be possible, but as long as Wu Ci's force is restricted or framed in some aspects, it will be enough for a small force like Wu Ci's force. After thinking about this, Jia Yan felt sorry for the weakness of Wu Ci's power, but this made him more sure of his choice. He wants to stay in Wu Ci's force. Because it is difficult to find such a weak force in the genius battlefield. If you go to other forces, they might be wiped out by the powerful semi-star class one day. If it comes to this Wu Ci force, Jia Yan is sure to at least escape. So after listening to the tiger monster's words, the mosquito's head straightened up. Then he said righteously, "I'm sorry, Senior. When I first joined the genius battlefield, Wu Ci's forces did not dislike me as a newcomer and accepted me. The ancients in my hometown said that the grace of a drop of water is like a spring of spring. I haven't done anything for Wu Ci's forces yet, and I won't go anywhere until I repay my kindness, please understand." When Jia Yan said this, a group of senior Wu Ci forces were watching the conversation between Jia Yan and the tiger monster in the battleship hall. They feel that Jia Yan is really going to be taken away. Even if he is not taken away by the power of this tiger monster, he must be looking down on the strength of this force and will be taken away by the next force. In short, there is no possibility of staying in Wu Ci's power. But when he heard Jia Yan's moral and righteous words, Bai Wangfu's eyes widened. A powerful person with a high rank was also full of energy. Me, what did I hear? Jia Yan said he wasn't going anywhere. Bai Wangfu looked around in confusion. No, that's right, that's what he said. A strong man from the second level replied in an equally stunned tone. He is actually willing to stay in our Wu Ci force. Another strong person from the second pass was also shocked. A promising venerable, who has just joined the genius battlefield and is able to obtain the superior status of a Star Lord. An intermediate genius with unknown future potential is willing to stay in their small Wu Ci force. We wrongly blame Jia Yan. This young man is a very loyal person. After a while, Bai Wangfu, who was half a star, let out a long sigh. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 851. What a loyal boy. We had our consciences eaten by a dog before and wanted to steal his reward. This boy still remembers us so well. In comparison, we are simply bastards. A strong man from the second pass also wailed, as if he was about to cry. In the world of the strong, true love is rare. After all, it is difficult for anyone who is not selfish to become a strong person. Therefore, Jia Yan's loyalty and gratitude show his greatness. Of course, others don't know the actual situation. They think Jia Yan really knows the existence of gratitude. And Jia Yan's true thoughts do not have much bad impression of Wu Ci's force. If he really becomes stronger in the future, then Wu Ci's force may really get some benefits. Next, many forces in the entire 215 sector came over one after another to invite Jia Yan, just as the top leaders of Wu Ci's forces thought. But without exception, they were all rejected by Jia Yan. During this period, Wu Ci's huge battleship also slowly took off. Then when they arrived at the outer area of communication between the Urshan forces, all the large genius forces understood that Jia Yan, a newcomer, had actually made a decision and refused to join any force. Regarding this point, some powerful people from some forces think that Jia Yan has a good mentality, and only those who never give up have the character of a strong person, while some people from some forces laugh and scold him. This Jia Yan is also a bit of a rotten man, and he actually imitates what loyalty does others play. And these forces did not embarrass Jia Yan too much. After all, although Wu Ci's force was small, it was still a force. It was not worth it to fight this force because of Jia Yan. Because there is no benefit. Jia Yan is really prosperous, so many forces have finally been dispatched. When the battleship left the starry sky within Urshan's sphere of influence, several senior officials in Wu Ci's forces breathed a long sigh of relief. This shows that Jia Yan has great potential. Now that he remains in our Wu Ci force, he is envious of those forces. The strong men of the Wu Ci force all smiled and were grateful for Jia Yan's situation. Jia Yan had great potential, but he was still willing to stay in the Wu Ci force. To them, he was simply the most grateful. Fortunately, we didn't force Jia Yan away, but what happened before must have affected his mood. Let's make some compensation to him when we go back. This kind of genius can stay in our force, although we can't provide the supplies of the big forces. But I also have to express it. Hieraeo spoke up and made the decision. Jia Yan is still digesting the energy of the star core body. After a few days of dealing with invitations from those genius forces, he has given up on this matter. Now the energy of the star core body is constantly flowing in his body. As an evolution being a beast, he also felt a little uncomfortable. Comfortable. I have digested a large amount of the energy of the star core body. Now I have made steady progress and entered the normal energy category of the venerable level. When Jia Yan woke up from a night of digestion, he immediately smiled happily. He was too uncomfortable when dealing with those powerful people before, and he underestimated the star core body, which can have a powerful impact on both genius-level venerables and sub-level powerful people. How can it be so simple? Jia Yan has only digested about half of it, and this power has already allowed him to not only stabilize his strength at the level of the venerable, but even steadily improve. The remaining part is not so easy to digest, because his body has absorbed a kind of bottleneck, and what is needed next is water grinding. But with such efficiency, other strong men would be shocked to hear it. How can the existence of this star field understand the devouring ability of evolved beasts? Jia Yan was not in a hurry to go out. He only went outside the battleship to see the scenery on the journey. The scenery in the universe is the same everywhere, so he put down digestion in his room and turned to rehearsing and reminiscing about the battle. The fighting during this period was a rare training for him, and the strength of a rank-level expert and a semi-star level expert was also a catalyst that allowed him to take a step further on the road to strength. There were hundreds of battles in the past few days. For Jia Yan, even the battles at the venerable level can inspire him. After all, in the genius battlefield, all geniuses have their own characteristics of uniqueness. My stabbing can absorb the sickle stabbing method of the arm monster. This stabbing method minimizes the resistance of the thrust, and it doesn't take much time for me to learn. There is also Bai Wangfu's poison. Although I don't have my own poison, I can still draw parallels and conduct research in a similar direction. As for other strong men, every bit of their experience can be converted into my combat power and battle experience. Next, I only need to go through it in my mind, and then even if I can't learn to use it, at least when I face it next time, and there are ways to deal with it. After constant contemplation, Jia Yan finally summed up a set of combat experience and how to deal with special combat methods in the future. The genius battlefield is indeed a genius battlefield. Each of these unknown sages has the ability to control the wind and rain in the northern star territory. The fighting methods of these strong men taught Jia Yan a unique lesson, as he had just arrived here. His vision has become higher and his knowledge has also increased, especially the unique fighting methods of some strong men, which can be regarded as adding a plan for Jia Yan to deal with in the future, and it is also a valuable experience. In general, this trip to the genius battle has given Jia Yan a great inspiration and enhanced his strength. Coupled with the experience value that cannot be reflected in a moment, it can be said to be a great gain. And this is the benefit of genius battlefield. After a long journey, the Wuxi Force warship slowly flew back to its home region. The entire starry sky seemed to be filled with festive colors. That's right, Jia Yan got the news about the number one master in the entire 215-star district and passed it back early. The strong men, who either believe it or not, are urgently preparing for this extremely important celebration for Wuxi's forces. This celebration was prepared for a group of strong men who went to compete in the genius battle. Of course, the scale this time was much larger than in the past. The reason was naturally Jia Yan's hard-earned title of champion. Got it? Back. I received the signal from the spaceship. Are you here? Then Jia Yan should be back too. I'm really a little nervous. It's the first time I see the living number one venerable, and he's also a strong man in our own force. It's like a dream. TCH, why are you nervous? I see, Jia Yan must have been poached by other forces. This kind of genius will not stay in our Wuxi force. Jia Yan's talent may be an intermediate genius. Our Wuxi force is so small. Can the pond keep him? I don't think you will be too happy either. Several venerables from Wuxi's forces were preparing nervously, but the topic of their conversation did not leave Jia Yan alone. After all, this time they knew the result of this genius battle early through the distant starry sky, but some of the powerful Wuxi forces believed it, and some did not. And just as they were discussing, a huge battleship slowly flew out from the deep tunnel of the cosmic starry sky. Coming. Whether the news is true or not will be verified soon. One by one, the venerables and the powerful men at the second level looked eagerly at the flying largest battleship of Wuxi's force. Welcome to your triumphant return. A strong man from the second pass laughed loudly when he saw the battleship approaching, and then passed the communication channel. The strong people in the secondary level can get more information than the venerable. They naturally know that the news that Jia Yan won the first place in the venerable level is true, and they also know that Jia Yan has rejected invitations from countless forces and is willing to stay in their Wuxi forces. This makes them happy. In the past, there were several powerful people from the second pass who did not have a very good relationship with Jia Yan, or who ignored Jia Yan, but now they are also extremely enthusiastic. We are back and we have lived up to our expectations. Your Majesty is the first, haha. Bai Wangfu laughed loudly in the communication channel, and finally concluded the outcome of this trip. Really the number one among the venerables? Does the newcomer Jia Yan really have such a talent? Although he is also outstanding in the force, it is still a bit exaggerated to directly rank first among the geniuses and venerables in the star area. Only then did the strong men of Wuxi's force believe that Jia Yan won the first place among the venerables. But they still have countless doubts. The huge battleship gradually moved closer to the artificial star of Wuxi's force, occupying less than half of the star almost instantly. Welcome Mr. Hierayo to lead the team back. A powerful person from the ranking Guan and the Venerable were all together to welcome Hierayo and others as they disembarked from the battleship. When I sent away this wave of strong warriors who participated in the war, I went to Shiyu and they never expected that there would be such a big surprise this time. And now this existence that surprised them was about to disembark from the battleship. We're back. A huge strong man with countless legs suddenly stepped out of the battleship. He looked extremely excited, and his expression looked like he wanted others to ask him what ranking he got. It seemed that the one who got the good ranking was same as himself. However, the strong men who picked up the ship directly ignored the strongest man in Wuxi's force, and instead turned to look at the dark flying creature behind him. Jia Yan was following Bai Wangfu, and the other three strong men from the second level who participated in the battle were following behind him. Their expressions did not show the slightest discomfort. They had finally thought about it. Jia Yan had expressed his willingness to stay in their Wuxi force. If they gave Jia Yan little shoes to wear, they would be forcing him to leave. And with Jia Yan's strength, it might not be long before he can catch up with them. What this group of sub-level experts don't know is that Jia Yan's current strength may surpass them. After all, the Star Core body has brought a lot of improvements to Jia Yan. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 852. One by one, the powerful Wuxi forces who were approaching the ship only saw Jia Yan behind Bai Wangfu. There was a trace of brilliance in his compound eyes, and this brilliance was so fierce that they did not dare to look directly at it. Especially the few strong men in the second level who did not fight with the geniuses felt their hearts tremble. This Jia Yan seems to be a lot stronger than when he went to the genius battle that day. Even I can feel that his strength is not bad now. When a strong person from the second level saw Jia Yan, he immediately understood the opponent's strength. Great progress. In fact, Jia Yan didn't want to look radiant wherever he went, but this was his normal behavior after he had just swallowed the star core body, so it would take at least a few days for his eyes to adapt and suppress the brilliance. Of course, in the eyes of others, this kind of brilliance is the appearance of the newcomer who has just won the first place in the Venerable, and is beginning to show off his sharp edge. What a newcomer! Awesome! A strong man who had not gone to the Star Zone Genius battle felt a little dazzling when he saw Jia Yan's demeanor, and couldn't help but exhale softly. Okay, don't say anything here, let's go in and talk. When Bai Wangfu saw a group of Wuxi's powerful men, they all looked curious about Jia Yan, so he laughed again and led the powerful men enter the stars. What happened next was nothing special. Jia Yan seemed to have received another big welcome in Wuxi's force. One by one, the strong men who had experienced the festival came to apologize, and those who had not celebrated the festival came to congratulate him. Fortunately, there are only a few hundred strong men in the entire Wuxi power base, otherwise Jia Yan would really be too busy. A group of people who had not witnessed Jia Yan's power asked about his experience. The weaker sages heard that Jia Yan became stronger and stronger as he faced each of the genius sages, and finally broke out. When they defeated the sickle monster of Naertian forces, they all praised him loudly. Jia Yan himself didn't say much. He was like a passerby, looking at the bustle around him, as if he hadn't integrated into the group yet. No one said there was anything wrong with Jia Yan's attitude. A powerful genius should be different from others. The carnival lasted for 3 to 5 days, until the heat subsided, and then it stopped a little. The addition of a top-level venerable genius will have a huge impact on Wuxi's power. Not only does the spiritual outlook of geniuses during cultivation become better, but their motivation is also higher. But Jia Yan's impact is far more than that. More than a month has passed. In a certain room in Wuxi's power base, a huge figure was immersed in his own world and practicing. A sudden burst of communication calls made the strong man come back to his senses in surprise. He is a gigantic centipede monster, with countless legs like sharp knives, each one of which can easily stab an ordinary venerable to death. He is Bai Huangfu, the only semi-star powerhouse in Wuxi's force, and he is also the mainstay of the entire force. Is this a communication from Urshan forces? Bai Wangfu looked at the communication name on the communicator with some surprise, and then thought for a moment. The Urshan force is almost the number one force in the entire 215-star area. This genius force is completely different from Wuxi's force, but now the Urshan force will take the initiative to compete with Huangfu? Except for the Wuxi forces who previously wanted to join the Star Zone Genius battle, the Urshan forces have not approached Bai Huangfu yet. Hello, Bai Wangfu answered the communication with some confusion. Opposite him was a half-star being. Hello, Bai Wangfu. This semi-stellar powerhouse has a face similar to that of humans on Earth, but his fangs are pointed and long, with 2 bloody slits on both sides of the teeth, making him extremely ferocious. Huh? Your Excellency, the head instructor of the Urshan force, I don't know if you exist like me, how come you have time to compete with me? Bai Wangfu was startled when he saw the other party's appearance, and then asked in a neither humble nor condescending manner. Of course, Bai Wangfu was indeed surprised, but he kept this surprise deep in his heart. Just like what Bai Wangfu said, this strong man is the head instructor of the Urshan force. It is not surprising that there are instructors in a force, but this kind of thing is not normal in the genius battlefield. He is a genius, even if he is half-star level, His Majesty may not be convinced by him. And this monster with cheeks similar to those on Earth can become the instructor of Urshan Power Hall, which shows that his strength must be unique. This instructor had not participated in the previous sector battle, so he did not know whether he could fight against the Wolf Star. Bai Wangfu, I don't want to see you. Although you and I are both said to be half-stars, the gap is too big to exist in the same world, the instructor of Naertian Hall said calmly, and his attitude was indifferent. It seemed that the hurtful words in his mouth were not meant intentionally. After hearing what Byarafu said, there was an unpleasant expression on Chang's cheek, but he didn't say anything to refute. Because as the other party said, the strength gap between the two sides is so large that they cannot be compared. Okay, tell me what you want from me, Bai Wangfu said coldly. I'm looking for you because of Jia Yan, the instructor of Urshan Hall said lightly. For Jia Yan? Do you want Jia Yan to join Urshan? Bai Wangfu was startled and asked again. That's right, I wasn't at the competition during those days, otherwise I would definitely have kept him. To Bai Wangfu's expectation, the instructor from Urshan Zongtang didn't show any intention of denying it, but was very cheerful. Admitted. Bai Wangfu smiled when he heard that the other party was doing it for Jia Yan. No matter how powerful you are, don't you still ask the geniuses in my power to join you? And this genius has no power but my own, Wu Si. Do you want him? No way. After Bai Wangfu shook his head, he directly brought this point up. I'm sorry, if you have collected information, you should understand that Jia Yan has already made it known that no force will join him. He only loves me, Wu Si. Bai Wangfu looked arrogant. Although Urshan's power was powerful, he also believed that if the other party wanted to take action, Wu Si's power would be doomed. But the genius the other party wanted happened to like Wu Si's power. And if you want to destroy Wu Si's forces, it is not that simple. Small forces have their own way of survival. If you want to destroy Wu Si, your whole body will be affected by one move, and a bunch of big forces in the 215 sector will be affected. In order to prevent any accidents, the Urshan forces may not dare to take action. Unexpectedly, the instructor of Urshan General Hall smiled faintly, and then shook his head. I have watched his battle videos and read his interview records. Let me tell you, you Wu Si forces cannot bear this genius. Although I, Wu Si, am weak, can an intermediate genius not be able to bear it? You underestimate me, Wu Si. Bai Wangfu smiled coldly. He understood what instructor Urshan meant. There were two meanings of being unbearable. One was that the genius was too strong, which would in turn have a bad impact on the force and cause that force to perish. The other is that the genius is too powerful, and the force cannot afford the other party's training needs, and as a result, a genius is wasted. And what Bai Wangfu said was not wrong. He believed that even if Jia Yan was an intermediate genius in the genius battlefield, Wu Si's forces could barely support him by selling iron. After all, the Wu Si's forces had only a small number of people. Let's save it. It can probably supply an intermediate genius venerable. But what Bai Wangfu didn't expect was that the instructor from Naertian Power Hall immediately laughed out loud after hearing his words. Ha 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 ha, Bai Wangfu, why should I laugh at you? The main hall instructor's laughter was extremely shrill, and the expression on his cheeks that resembled that of humans on Earth became more and more ferocious. Should I laugh at you for being a frog in the well, or should I laugh at you for being blind? Listening to the laughter of the instructor from Urshan Power Hall, Bai Wangfu felt uncomfortable in his heart, but he still heard that there seemed to be a special meaning in the other person's words. Master Instructor, what exactly do you mean? Bai Wangfu asked with a cold look in his eyes while holding back the humiliation. What do I mean? Haha, what I mean is that you are short-sighted. You are a high-level genius, but you, Wu Si, dare to treat him as a middle-level genius. I said this, you should understand what I mean. The instructor of the Naertian forces looked at Bai Wangfu with a ferocious look in his eyes. At the same time, he also felt a sense of waste of natural resources. Jia Yan's shining pearl was almost wasted by the Wu Si forces. What? Jia Yan is a high-level genius? You said, he is a high-level genius in this genius battlefield. In an instant, Bai Wangfu, who heard the words of the instructor from the Urshan forces, felt like he was struck by thunder, and he almost fell down. A strong man could be so shocked by the sentence. It can be seen that the words spoken by the instructor of the Urshan force shocked him. There is no other reason than that he said the words higher genius. High-level geniuses are the true favored ones among countless geniuses from all star regions in the entire genius battlefield. They are the envy of countless geniuses in the entire genius battlefield. Every high-level genius is, if there are no accidents, he can achieve star level. They are absolute geniuses second only to the top geniuses. In this genius battlefield, even among super large forces, they will be valued. And among the Wu-Ci forces in the fringe realm, they have never seen even middle-level geniuses. How about high-level geniuses? That kind of existence would never look directly at their Wu-Ci forces. Even middle-level geniuses are no different from shit in the eyes of high-level geniuses. And now the instructor of the Urshan force headquarters actually said that Jia Yan of the Wu-Ci force was a high-level genius. Bai Wangfu's insect eyes all revealed their brilliance fiercely. You're lying. How could Jia Yan be a high-level genius? He can't be a high-level genius. Even if he just came to the genius battlefield and swept across the 215th star area, he could even compete with ordinary second-level geniuses. It's possible in every field. If Jia Yan is a high-level genius, how come his combat power is so weak? Bai Wangfu's eyes turned red and he roared loudly. What he said was correct. Although Jia Yan's strength was already very strong, it still did not match the strength of a high-level genius. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 853. After listening to Bai Wangfu's words, the man who spoke on the phone overwhelmed the main instructor and burst out laughing again. Bai Wangfu, you Wu-Ci's forces don't understand at all. This Jia Yan has been hiding his strength, can't you see a clue? He is a high-level genius, although I don't know what level he is a high-level genius. Genius, but it must be a high-level genius. High genius? Jia Yan is a high genius. At this moment, Bai Wangfu truly recalled the performance of Jia Yan and Wu-Ci's power. After all, Bai Wangfu was a half-star. After recalling it, he finally got a clue. That is, although he did not see through Jia Yan's true strength, he thought that every time he faced a strong person, he was too calm. This is not something that a genius with only moderate talents can possess. He is a high-level genius. No wonder he doesn't have much fear when facing a strong person from the next level. Bai Wangfu finally came to his own conclusion. Okay, Bai Wangfu, you understand, your Wu-Ci power cannot tolerate a high-level genius. Even if I don't know why this genius wants to stay in your Wu-Ci power, it is definitely right to stay with you. Are you still unwilling to let go of his hurt? The cold words of the instructor from Naertian Force headquarters came out again. No, can your Tianli forces be able to cultivate a high-level genius? You must know that a high-level genius cannot be cultivated by our forces in the 215th district, Bai Wangfu shouted unwillingly. We, the Urshan force, are naturally confident that we can train him. Okay, Bai Wangfu, I will say this. A high-level genius has a great influence. I will give you 10 minutes to think about it. If you exceed this time, our Urshan force we need to use some means. After the instructor from Naertian Power Hall said these words, he directly hung up the communication. Jia Yan is actually a high-level genius? How could this happen? Bai Wangfu looked at the screen where the communication person was no longer there, feeling a little stunned and at a loss. Although he knew that Jia Yan's talent was very powerful, he never thought that he would be a high-level genius. But now he was awakened by the instructor of the main hall of the Naertian forces, and he immediately figured out many of Jia Yan's doubtful points. By the way, send a message to Jia Yan. Bai Wangfu composed himself, and then hung up the call on Jia Yan's communication number. At this time, Jia Yan had just recovered from the practice of digesting the star core body. The strength has improved a lot. Jia Yan looked happy while observing his body. The decision to come to the genius battlefield seems to be correct now. Although the dangers here seem to be high, the rewards are far greater than those in the outside world. Huh? Bai Wangfu's message. Just as he was looking at it, Bai Wangfu's message came. After picking up the call, Jia Yan only saw Bai Wangfu on the screen in front of him, looking a little nervous. Of course Bai Wangfu was nervous, not only nervous about whether Jia Yan would leave, but even more nervous that he might be facing a higher genius. You must know that high-level geniuses, in the entire genius battlefield, are the most terrifying existences with unlimited potential, except for a very small number of top geniuses. In this Wu Ci force, there are all low-level geniuses, and he is just an intermediate existence among low-level geniuses than Huangfu. Now that he is powerful, he has just forced his way to the semi-star level, and he is still almost the weakest among the semi-star geniuses. In the future, because of his forced breakthrough, there is almost no possibility for him to continue to be strong. As for the star level, it will never be reached. And now he knows that Jia Yan may be a high-level genius, which is several levels more powerful than his talent. You must know that ordinary high-level geniuses are legendary existences in the eyes of these low-level geniuses, even if the current Jia Yan may not be as strong as him, but it won't be long before Jia Yan will definitely surpass him, and even at the next level, he will easily defeat him, a semi-star powerhouse. In this case, he was naturally nervous. But what he didn't know was that Jia Yan didn't want to be a sub-level expert, nor did he want to enter the semi-star level, but directly promoted from the venerable level to the star level. If you knew it, you would be even more frightened. What's wrong? Bai Wangfu, I see you seem a little nervous. Did something happen? When Jia Yan saw Bai Wangfu's appearance, he was curious and took the initiative to ask. Jia Yan, no, Your Excellency Jia Yan. That's it? The head instructor of the Urshan force just sent me a message. Maybe you haven't seen him. This head instructor of the Urshan force there is an existence that is about as powerful as the Wolf Star, but he was not within Urshan's influence before Bai Huangfu began to explain. Jia Yan felt something strange. Bai Wangfu's words became more verbose. Originally, he thought this temporary leader was a bit cool, but now Bai Wangfu looked like a clown. Okay, Bai Wangfu, what on earth did this powerful man from Urshan say to you? Jia Yan finally interrupted him impatiently. He said you are a high-level genius. Jia Yan, tell me, did you conceal your strength during the Star Zone genius battle? Bai Arafa finally asked what he wanted to ask in one breath. Jia Yan was startled for a moment. He didn't think that his concealment would be hidden from everyone, but he didn't expect that after so long, a strong man from Urshan power would come to his door. After thinking about it, Jia Yan felt that someone had exposed him, so it didn't matter if he admitted it. And, higher genius? Although he doesn't know what level of genius he is obviously more than a high-level genius. Even if it is definitely a top-notch existence among high-level geniuses. Maybe based on his own judgment, he can squeeze into the most terrifying category of top genius in the entire genius battlefield. Of course, he won't say it now. Bai Wangfu thinks he is an ordinary high-level genius, so be it. That's right, Bai Wangfu, I'm sorry that I hid my strength before. According to my estimation, I may indeed be a high-level genius. Jia Yan nodded and replied. Hiss. Jia Yan heard Bai Wangfu's long gasp. And the way he looked at Jia Yan became different. Jia Yan, no, Your Excellency Jia Yan, I understand your idea of hiding your talent, but now the instructors from the Urshan Force General Hall have come to visit. They want to invite you to the Urshan Force, Your Excellency Jia Yan said, to be honest, I just thought about it. A high-level genius like you is really inferior in our Wu Ci force. You are a high-level genius and there is a high chance of being promoted to the star level in the future. I want you to choose a good one. It is correct to join the forces of Urshan. Of course, Urshan Shuli is not a good choice either. I suggest. Before Bai Wangfu could continue speaking, Jia Yan's interrupted words had already been spoken. Bai Wangfu, have you forgotten what I said? No matter what your power is, if I decide to stay in your power, I will not change it easily. Could it be that you want to drive me away? The sparkle in Jia Yan's eyes suddenly appeared, and coupled with his current identity, this look made Bai Wangfu on the other side of the communicator tremble. Okay, Jia Yan, I'll just reject him later, but I can't guarantee what measures the Urshan forces will take. Recently, the Urshan forces have been trying to find ways to be promoted to a medium force. They know that you are a high-level genius will do whatever it takes. Bai Wangfu shook his head worriedly. But he just muttered something and closed the communication. The Urshan force wants to be promoted to a medium genius force? When Jia Yan heard Bai Wangfu's muttering, he understood the thoughts of Urshan's forces. In the genius battlefield, the level of the force represents the allocation of resources at each period of time. Small forces like Wu Si's force can only be allocated materials that are barely enough for cultivation every month or so. But the Urshan force can be allocated more, so there are more strong people in their force. Of course, other strong people are also willing to join the Urshan force. And Urshan's power has reached the edge of being promoted to a medium power. As long as 5 medium geniuses join, or 1 high genius joins, they can be promoted smoothly. And if there are high-level geniuses, Urshan forces can also obtain resources that are considered good among medium forces in one fell swoop. So now that they know that Jia Yan may be suspected of being a higher genius, of course they will use their brains. I have sufficient resources for the time being in the Wu Si force, and I am slowly getting stronger and stronger. Even the stronger Wu Si force may not be able to keep me. If I switch to the Urshan force, Banhan, there are too many stars, even I have to live on tenterhooks, it's better not to go. Jia Yan thought for a while and set his own tone. He is an evolved beast with a very high energy conversion rate, so the materials allocated by Wu Si's forces, which others think are average, are enough to barely use. In this case, why change to a potentially dangerous force? What? Then Jia Yan still refuses? Is it because he refuses, or is it that your Wu Si forces want to hold people and are unwilling to let go? Don't you still understand that a high-level genius, your little Wu Si, the power cannot be digested? Not long after, a terrifying and powerful voice spread to the outside world from the depths of Wu Si's power where Yu Bai Wangfu was located. Each of the guarding venerables who heard this voice were shocked by him and were almost dumbfounded. You must know that the voice of a strong man through the communicator is somewhat restored. At this moment, the voice of the head instructor of the Naertian force, if it were a venerable person in front of him, might cause internal injuries. But in the face of this voice, Bai Wangfu, who was talking to him in the room, became hardened in a rare moment. Jia Yan himself said that he refused, and our Wu Si forces cannot force him. And since he is willing to trust my Wu Si forces, then my forces will become his backing. Even if your Urshan forces come to force us, we will not. I won't admit defeat. There was a cold look in Bai Wangfu's eyes, and he looked at the instructor from the Urshan force headquarters opposite the communicator. Please visit.